Dudes, you ready, your dusty little butt? You ready, you dusty little butt? Oh, yes, the cat, the cat. Okay, boogity, 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 boogity. All right, hello everybody. Here we are. It's Monday, beginning of a new age. We have some interesting things going on. The Trump administration was like, we reached a trade deal. And China's like, we did not reach a trade deal. What we've done is we've agreed to meet. And the conditions for that agreeing to meet is a 90-day sort of moratorium, sort of ceasefire on the retaliatory tariffs. So the United States agreed to immediately reduce all tariffs in China, from China, on goods from China down to 30% across the board. And Chinese agreed to reduce tariffs on U.S. goods down to 10%. For the next 90 days, for them to hash out some sort of deal. I don't know what type of deal they're looking for here. I don't know what like, is it just going to be like, oh, we're just going to agree to no tariffs and that's going to be it, and then we'll be right back where we were prior to all this, so we wouldn't have achieved anything that Trump wanted us to achieve. The last time we had a tariff war like this during the Trump administration, the Chinese like, hey, we'll spend $500 billion more buying stuff from you. And Trump was like, excellent. And the Chinese did not buy $500 billion more of things from us. So that might be kind of where this one's headed again. But the market loved it. The stock, the SPY rocketed $20 and 2.5%. And everybody's all like, woo, pew, 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 pew. Everything's going great. What's interesting is that the ships still have not been rerouted. I'll show you that here in a second. Next up on the news is European leaders with Zelensky cold called Trump without unscheduled call. And they're like, look, buddy, we're telling Putin, you sign a ceasefire on Thursday, good for 30 days, or we're going to wreck your shit. Basically is what they said. And if he does it, we'll give you credit for it. Trump's like, interesting. Basically, the Germans will no longer advertise what they're sending to Ukraine. It's all going to be classified. And so they won't know like how many Leopard tanks, whatever. They're just going to keep sending them weapons. This sort of ultimatum that was given by the EU and Zelensky to Putin and relayed to Trump is basically, we will send enough weapons, armaments, personnel to vaporize Russia if you don't sign this trade deal or this ceasefire on Thursday. Along with it is sweeping sanctions that Russia has managed to go without, such as for things like oil and natural gas and stuff like that. So now Russia is facing, finally it seemed like their main customer base for hard currency kind of disappear entirely. A lot of bank accounts that still have been frozen are about to get frozen if this isn't signed, and Russian coffers are going to dry up, meaning probably Russian nationals living in the EU may face problems in the similar way that people all over America are facing if they're foreign born. It should be pretty interesting. On another note, Qatar has gifted Donald Trump a $400 million Boeing 747-800 luxury liner to be used as not just Air Force One, but eventually as his personal plane. They made Jimmy Carter give up his beloved peanut farm because it would have been seen as a conflict of interest for him to operate a peanut farm and be president of the United States. Donald Trump has given up nothing. He's enriched himself to the tune of billions and billions of dollars through weird financial mechanisms such as crypto and SPACs and social media companies and weird investments and golf resorts and golf tours, and now a $400 million free plane. He's then going to donate the plane to his library post presidency, where he can then use the plane as his personal plane. This is bullshit. This is straight up graft. This is bribery. This is put whatever noun you want on there. But it's bullshit. And here we are. Just smiling like it's a totally normal thing to do for a president to accept a $400 million plane from people who fund Houthis and like, yeah. GME did not have the pop that people were predicting today. I mean, looking at the options chain, it did not look like we were poised to do what we did last year. Not enough options in the money to force a gamma ramp going into Friday. The price is still strong, still 27 and change, so it's still doing okay. But it's not the big flex everyone was hoping for and calling for, and the MACD was showing, and all that stuff. So it may still happen. There's still T35s and swaps expiring end of this week and into next week. So there still may be some sort of push to get that thing up. But our next window is probably June monthlies. See how that goes. If more buys happen going into that. Okay. So bing. Oh, that didn't happen. Try that again. Oh. He's so fuzzy. Yes. Whew. All right. Turn that intro off. I think all the intros are off. Okay, so what I was going to show you is going to show you Vessel Finder. This is Northwest here because that's what I'm more familiar with than anything else. Bring this guy up. Ba-boom, ba-boom, shabam. Boom. Okay, so you can see here ports of Seattle and Tacoma. We got a few ships. We got 4 ships, 5 ships in Port Tacoma. Not sure how many of these. All right, that's the United States. That one doesn't count. Budapest Express, that's international. I think that's international. Tom Pascal, Grandpa's Charm. So that is... It's a grain ship, so we don't count grain ships. This is a Chinese ship. So we got a Chinese ship anchored there. We've got a Korean ship. We've got... Come on. Give me Sheila Ann here. Sheila Ann. All right, well, this one first. This one is a United States vessel, so we don't count that either. So we have a Chinese, a Korean, and a Mexican ship. Okay. Going up to Seattle, we have a grain ship. We've got some cruise ships. We have MSC Orion. This is a U.S. flag ship going from Long Beach to here, so we don't count that. Swift Arrow is also that's a little tug or something. We don't want this guy. APL Charleston, also a U.S. flagship, but going to Canada. Okay, so we got a Chinese ship, a Korean ship. Basically, that's it in the Puget Sound. You go up to Canada, up to Vancouver here, and you'll notice just how many ships are anchored waiting for port here in Canada. Absolute boatloads of boats, and you can go over and look at Vancouver Island as well. There's quite a few ships. But one thing to notice is, all these ships coming in. These orange ones are tankers. The yellow ones are cargo ships. Lots of yellow leaving. The yellows that are coming in are going to Vancouver. So that's Prince Rupert. Okay, this one here. That's Chinese ship going to Vancouver. So they've not been rerouted yet. All last week when I was watching these ships, you'd find them out in the ocean coming in, and be something like this here. And Destination Seattle. It would say things like Destination Seattle. This is coming from Vietnam. And then when it would get into Straits of Juan de Fuca, it would change and say rerouted to Vancouver. And they'd just keep pumping up here, going to Vancouver. And so they're all sitting out here waiting to be offloaded because there's no port space whatsoever. So what I think is happening is it's basically free to have a ship anchor and wait for port. You have the goods on there, you're paying, your customers aren't buying things from you because of the tariffs. And so you're just going to pay the crew to sit there and idle and wait for port space to come in and drop stuff off in Vancouver. When it comes into Vancouver, you're hoping two things. One, people in Canada just take the goods and sell them, and then you don't deal with them. Or it goes into like some sort of bonded warehouse where it can sit and wait for tariffs to come down. So a lot of those were happening there. I was kind of expecting to see some of these start to come out and maybe go down to Seattle with the tariffs being lowered to 30%. but I don't really think it's happening yet. This is destination USGH. I don't know. Oh, there's no destination necessarily there. So we're not really seeing them peel out of here and head down to Seattle or Tacoma just yet. Maybe going to Port of Los Angeles. There's more bonded warehouses down there to house goods and stuff. But has not quite brought the traffic back yet. I guess we'll see. We'll see how much retailers are willing to eat a 30% tariff, or if that's still too much for them. I don't know. We'll have to see. Because otherwise, just twiddle thumbs like always and see where it goes. Okay, so to the chat. And 9 first. And 9, what's your percent probability that something will actually happen this week? For me, it's 6.9% chance something happened. 10%. It's the monthlies this week, so there are a bunch of options for GameStop to expire. Oh crap! 1 sec. I just lost that. Can't. Nope, not that one. Nope, not that one. There we go. Okay. Dang it. Where's my GameStop? Shoot. Game. Nope. GME options chain. There we go. Okay, so, and I just totally, my window, there's my window. There's my other window. Nope. There we go. Okay, I'm a mess. Okay, back up. Back to there. GameStop options chain. Boom. 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 GameStop option. Where'd you go? I lost you. How come you're not popping up? Interesting. No. How come? No, I want the YouTube studio. That's where I am. Dang it. Sorry. My window just closed itself, and now I can't get it to pop back up. All right, double click you. Click on that. We go. Why come Chrome's not showing up anymore? What's up with you? Why that? No, I don't want that. I want this. Do I have to do it as the? You have to do it as this. We have to go here. All right, that'll make it happen. Okay, here we go. All right. This is for Friday. We got a good chunk, 28s. Basically after hours, or right at close, 28s win the money. Awesome, because there's 14,000 of those. Open interest, and who knows what kind of shady deals were going on with these 12,000 that were either bought or sold. If we close, up 29, 30, somewhere around there, I think it's a good chance for gamma next week. If we close at 30, let's say that there are some T35s, there's some forced buying that goes out there, and the price does go up and actually puts these suckers on. That's 3.4 million shares, almost 3.5 million shares, plus the other 13, 15 million shares, 16 million shares here. So you're looking at 4, 5 million shares. Not too shabby. If we can close at 30, and that's enough to give some serious gamma into Monday. And that's enough to also see like the volumes spike like crazy. In the past, when we've had Fridays, especially big ones like monthlies, like May 16th, push a bunch into the money, 4 or 5 million shares, we start to see volumes like 50, 60, 70, 80, 90 million shares trade, and that causes a huge volatility to start happening again. About 27s, they popped early, settled down, came back up again. I didn't do anything with them today. I probably should have day traded them, but I didn't. So maybe tomorrow might be the day to do that. And then if we close high, if we close up by these 30s on Friday, I will definitely put a bunch into options for next week for I close on Friday for to get the gamma. But without having something sitting here at the 25s where there's like 100,000 options contracts, we're just not seeing the gamma ramp just yet. Maybe if we push it up above 28.5, we push it up against 29, and we start to the options writers start to panic, start having to go out and find a couple million shares. But until then, we're sitting, waiting, twiddling our thumbs like always. Let's see here. Ren9 also says, I need to go on a nothing burger diet if something ever actually happens. I've had my fill. Lisa Sa, $400 million gifted luxury jet is not bribery or corruption. It's simply Qatar sending a defective product back to its origin. They got Boeing'd. Lone Wolf's a second. Nope, third. Ferris F, first say hi, Monkey Butt. Hi, Monkey Butt. She's over here on the floor. She's just off camera there. Oyana Mosca, Sigh, are we still twiddling our thumbs? We will twiddle our thumbs until we finally give up the ghost, I think, at this point. There's been talk about Bed Bath & Beyond that BNY Mellon is now like the executor of the estate or something like that, when originally they were something to do with unsecured debt. The plan man says it's a mistake, but a lot of documents kind of stipulate that. So it makes you wonder who's behind that. Is BNY Mellon a proxy at this point for all of it? I have no idea. But BBY things, we're at the point where it appears there's more money in the estate than there's owed to creditors, so there will be a cash waterfall. I don't know how much. I don't know when. But so long. Snort alert. Oh, Houston. Tariffs and ports. What will happen next? Sal Mirko Giuliano is predicting a massive oversupply of Chinese goods, which will arrive soon in U.S. ports. Thanks in advance. I was thinking that they'd start to see stuff get rerouted and push into ports like Seattle and Tacoma. I wonder how many of them went south through the canal. They're headed for the West Coast. A lot of them got diverted to Mexico and Canada, but I wonder how many pushed south through the Panama Canal, hoping to find a European port or something. And now will get diverted to Baltimore or Savannah or Houston or Miami. I don't know. Be kind of curious to see what kind of traffic they start to get from all those guys. But yeah, an oversupply of Chinese goods may happen. We may start to see some truck routes open up big time between Canada, U.S., and Mexico, U.S. The problem is that Mexican truck drivers are basically being targeted by Border Patrol and ICE, so that might cause a problem trying to get some goods across the border from Mexico. Lisa saw South African refugees have landed. Will they experience big culture shock? South African refugees.
We stole all this land, and they want to steal it back, and now we're refugees.
Basically, it's like, let's import a bunch of white supremacists into the U.S. I know some lovely South Africans, some white South Africans. They fled not because they were being attacked by black Africans, but because other white people were attacking them for defending black Africans. So that's why they're here. They're a completely different brand than the folks who are like,
well, that's my farm that I stole from some other people.
So yeah, but bring 9,000 of them in. Yeah, bring 9,000 of these refugees in while we're absolutely just humiliating, torturing, dehumanizing refugees from our own hemisphere who have actual legitimate fears from their oppressive American-backed governments. But hey, let's just bring a bunch more white South Africans in this country. We have another PayPal mafia absolutely fuck this place up. Woo! I'm sure some of them are lovely people. But I'm going to guess most of them aren't. Murphy Studios, tomorrow is my year anniversary of buying my first GME share. What do I need to know about capital gains tax? Is it all based on when I bought my first share? It depends upon when you bought which of your shares. So if you bought all your shares more than a year ago, you're paying long-term capital gains. If you bought 20% of your shares a year ago, then you're going to pay long-term capital gains on those ones you sell, not on the more recent shares. And it just look at the, you can usually look in your statement to see which ones qualify as longs and which one qualify as shorts. So by shorts, I mean not like short selling, but like a short-term hold. And those get taxed at a higher rate. 37% capital gains on short-term buys, but that's only for $400,000 or more. I don't think you really pay capital gains until you make 40 grand in profit on that stuff. So you got a little window there. We should worry about it. Kelly Reed, happy birthday, HW. So while market is ripping, the 10-year Treasury is 4.46. What happens when a president is pumping and dumping global markets? Well, the customers have not returned to U.S. Treasuries. That's what has been made obvious. I know Trump is trying to get the Fed to reduce rates, but the Fed could reduce rates to zero right now. The Treasury bonds will still be 4.46% and climbing because nobody wants them. So you have to entice people into buying them, and by doing that, you have to increase the yields. If people want the bonds like crazy, you can lower the yields because of supply and demand. You don't need to create a demand because the demand's already there. So you lower the yields, and the United States saves a whole bunch of money on interest. But if you piss off the entire world, and the world owns half of our bonds, and they don't want to buy our bonds anymore, they want to sell them instead, then they're selling into a market where people don't want them, and no one wants to buy them. So you have to increase interest rates in order to decrease the price versus the paper value, the face value, and raise interest rates. So you might see some of these Treasury bonds selling at 80% face value, like it can totally be redeemed for, while also giving a 4.46% return, which means ultimately you're going to get 20% on your bond. So it's a 10-year bond. It's got 5 years left, right? So you're buying it, say it's $1,000, buying it for $800. Cool. You're going to make $200 when it gets redeemed, right? And you're going to make 4.46% for the next 5 years on top of that each year as a interest payment. So it just shows you how much people hate us right now by the fact that people are not buying what had been the gold standard of collateral for investment. They don't want it. And if the face value drops too much, even though the interest rates are going up, it's really, really, really going to hurt the Japanese yield yen carry trade guys. So, if the face value drops, the overall collateral drops, they may fall below the interest payments they owe back in Japan on all the borrowing they took out in yen, and they have to sell their holdings here, which would cause more of those bonds enter the market, which causes the price to drop even more, which then becomes a chain reaction across the $7 to $20 trillion carry trade market. We don't quite know. It's estimated somewhere in there. So anywhere from a third of the entire U.S. GDP to the entire U.S. GDP is represented in these carry trades. It's kind of terrifying. Alexander K, happy birthday, Houston. Where in the world? Where is the world with? Oh my gosh, I can't read. I don't know what it is. I don't know. I tossed and turned all night last night. Maybe that's why. Where's the world at with room temperature superconductors? I know you said humans had made one a while back, and I haven't heard any updates since. The room temperature superconductor that supposedly came out last year that was made by this Korean scientists had not been able to be replicated by everyone else. It was interesting material that had some properties of room temperature supercapacitance, but did not fully qualify as a superconductor. Did not quite fully qualify as an actual superconductor. I don't know what else. Let's see here. Room temperature superconductor. Let's see anything on the news here. News. Evidence superconducting gap emerges in hydrogen sulfides. All right. High temperature, high pressure superconductors. Okay, that's from 43 minutes ago. Room temperature superconductor physically possible. Some scientists say yes, the dream is alive. So I mean, it's still in the news all over the place. People saying that they got groundbreaking materials that could possibly do this. AI helping out, but at the moment, the weird lead one that the Koreans made didn't quite turn out to be all that everyone thought it was. Yeah. So, still coming. I mean, I'd rather have room temperature superconductors than AI at this point, to be honest. Lisa Saw, how would a reoffending J6 Capitol rioter fare inside CCOT? Trump did say the homegrown talent would be next. I'm sure they would just, some white supremacist who stormed the Capitol being stuck with a whole bunch of Latin dudes in a prison would just be icing on the cake for them at this point. Chris Taylor, hi, and happy birthday, or happy Monday. Do you think tomorrow's April CPI numbers will turn the markets red this week? I'm betting it will, so I bought a few SPY puts for later this week. Fingers crossed. I bought a couple of SPY puts too, sitting on them, see what happens. I figured there'd be a little bit of settling out period tomorrow after such a huge gain today, and we'll see where it goes from here. Giga Shukla says helium-3 and cold fusion more likely than room temperature superconductors. I think helium-3 superconductor, helium-3 cold fusion will happen first before room temperature superconductor. I agree with you on that one. But well, sup BBBY No Labs. No news in No Labs. BBBY latest news I saw is the BNY Mellon thing. Ferris F. The cause of 1987 market crash, a fear that stocks were significantly overvalued and were certain to undergo a correction, economic uncertainty, budget deficits, and rising interest rates. If you know, you know. Yep. It still needs to correct real hard. We still vaporized a huge chunk of our GDP. United Airlines has to cancel, but the fact that there's not enough air traffic controllers and there's no meteorologists across huge zones in this country, so pilots are not getting updates that they need, and they don't know how to divert from storms. They don't know in front of them because no one's being told. United Airlines alone is canceling so many flights every day. It's coming out to about $2.5 billion of their revenue stream this year alone. So I know, like you've seen also stuff from Transportation Secretary and from Trump being like, this is all Biden's fault, it's all Obama's fault, it's all Pete Buttigieg's fault. It's not. The Trump administration are the ones who got rid of the meteorologists. The Trump administration are the ones who got rid of the already thin core of air traffic controllers. They're like, back in 2014, Obama made it impossible for white people to become air traffic controllers. No, they didn't. The program only lasted for 3.5 years. For the last 7 years, it's been the program that Trump created in 2018, and we're still short air traffic controllers. Why? Because the Republicans who control Congress during the Biden administration refused to get more money to the FAA so they could hire more air traffic controllers. That's why we're short air traffic controllers. We tried. Pete Buttigieg lobbied Congress to do it, and we still were short air traffic controllers. And then Trump came in and he fired 400 of them. And then he took the communications platform. There's a radar station over here. There's some wires that take the information from that radar station to the tower where the air traffic controllers are, right? And that wire was from Verizon. And then Elon comes in and goes, snip, we're going to do a Starlink now. And Starlink hasn't done anything, so places like Newark keep having giant blackouts because there's no one actually operating the communication system between the tower and the radar assemblies. And this is putting so much pressure and stress on air traffic controllers who, like, probably top 5 most stressful jobs in the world is being an air traffic controller. You really have to get lots of therapy, know how to keep calm and carry on, have all sorts of management, special management abilities that are beyond the normal human being, because you are dealing with hundreds or thousands of lives at any moment. And if you fuck up, it's on you. You're responsible for it. So these dudes have PTSD, these dudes have stress, and when their radars blink out for 90 seconds or more, and they don't know where planes are, they don't know if people are alive, they have nervous breakdowns, and all of a sudden you have even fewer air traffic controllers, which keeps happening at Newark, and the people who are on the floor guiding these planes are having nervous breakdowns because they don't know if people are still alive. They don't know if jets have crashed into each other. And then they have to take time off to go talk to therapists for a month to basically get back in. Like, they need basically sports psychologists over their shoulder all times being like, it's okay, you got this, you are empowered, you are good at your job. And all that stuff is being taken away from them, their ability to do their job well. So, right, fat guy? Yeah. Anyway, so our GDP is going to get vaporized from things like that. I mean, we're not even calculating storm damage into prediction for budgets. Like, we are basically assuming there are going to be no more storms in the United States, so we're not going to budget the U.S. government to account for extensive property damage and loss of life, because that's too much. We aren't going to do that anymore. So instead, we're just going to be surprised every single time we go bankrupt from a single natural disaster happening. And we stop all payments for FEMA. We're rejecting, FEMA applications from even red states like Kentucky and Arkansas. We've got storms that have ravaged areas of Texas that no one saw coming because, they fired the meteorologists in charge of that border zone in Texas that got 15 inches of rain in 24 hours. So we're going to have lots of lives lost, lots of property destroyed, and no way to deal with any of it. And that's not good for the GDP. Yeah, it's just not. So, yeah. So yeah, Ferris F, a lot of that is coming. Matthew Jackson, do you think growing up in, say, the Midwest, would your views be completely different, or just having a normal moral compass would be the same thing everywhere? Well, I mean, Pope Leo grew up in Chicago. He and I, while I'm not religious and he is, we seem to have a very similar worldview when it comes to wealth and power and authoritarianism in this world. So, I think it's possible. I think I've got a pretty similar worldview to Midwesterners like Dennis Kucinich or even Walls in Minnesota. So, I think a good portion of my worldview is shaped by where I live. Definitely shaped by my education and reading, and by my parents, who are extremely empathetic people. So, my dad is an empathetic person in spite of his upbringing. He was raised by Southern racists, and he is not that. So, you can't overcome those things by thinking to yourself like, this doesn't seem right, and break the cycle of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. I'm talking hundreds of years of racism was built into my father's heritage. His family had the first plantation in the Savannah area, 400 years ago. So it's, to break that cycle is, I think a big deal. On my mom's side, they were civil rights activists. My grandfather helped found the NAACP in New Jersey and was at the I Have a Dream speech. And one of my mom says one of the things she never forgave her father for was not taking her to the I Have a Dream speech on the Washington Mall. And she was 13. She was like, let's go. And her dad was like, I think it might be dangerous. you know, the police may come and like bash heads. And she's like, no, they're not. He said, yeah. And then as he was dying, you know, a decade later, he told her that he was so sorry that he didn't take her. He should have taken her to that. But yeah, how they found each other, I don't know. Fabrizio's plopping. Just made me, where's my Doge check? Do you check under the cushions? You get them on. You know damn well it's in the mail. Kikidi is oomph. I'm not a cat. Check out the eruption of Mount Etna. Mount Etna do another one here. Etna live eruption. Oh, here we go. Wait for this. There's some silly ad trying to play here. I don't care about your ad. Show me the volcano. Ooh, here we go. Good lava flow. Boom. All right. Got a little plume action up top. Got the lava flow coming down the steep hill there. Nice. Nice. I dig it. Well, it's kind of look like that unless you get a cool Stromboli. It looks like there must be a cloud layer happening here. Because I think there's a Stromboli happening off to the side here we just can't quite see. Just judging from the fact it looks like cinder is falling over here. You see it kind of raining down on this side. There goes some. So I think there's a Stromboli happening. We just can't see it because there's got to be a cloud layer. I think this line here is that cloud. Kind of blocking it. Well, it'd be neat to see the Stromboli. But you got a little bit of some sort of action happening in this pit here. But yeah, there's definitely something raining down on this side. There it goes. There's a bit better. So it looks like maybe gonna lift in the cloud, perhaps. Boom, 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 boom. Go magma, go. Fun. Isn't that fun? Tom Zaki, aren't you so tired of winning so much? Oh, believe me, I'm tired, boss. Daniel Holcomb. Just saw that tariff on cheap Temu stuff still stands at 145%. They didn't. I thought it was 30% across the board. Did they not? Or are they like except things people use? Interesting. Oh shoot! There's a reset of the chat. Adam Davey. Most Dems say homelessness is a problem of insufficient, expensive housing options. Probably gonna say it's drug use and mental health issues. Do you have any insight into which is true or truer? I don't think Republicans say it is drug use or mental health issues. I think Republicans say it has to do with them being lazy and good for nothing. And they basically get what they deserve. Homelessness is almost a one-for-one relation between drug and alcohol abuse, mental health. And that mental health includes psychosis as well as trauma. CPTSD, PTSD, etc. That is the bulk of homelessness. There's also folks that have homelessness because they lost a job, bad position, parents died, whatever. And then most youth homelessness is the result of asshole parents kicking their LGBT kids out of their homes. So, but if it's due to mental illness, whether it's psychosis or trauma, or if it's due to substance abuse, alcohol, drugs, etc., those are healthcare issues. And you can easily solve that by getting people healthcare, right? If someone's all, they're not going to be able to hold down a job. If they can hold down a job, they're not going to get health insurance. And because we just cut like $800 billion from Medicaid with the ye old bill just passed by the Republicans at 1 a.m., you're not going to be able to get them on Medicaid either. And they don't have an address, physical address, so there's no way to get them the health care they need, so they're going to remain on the street. If it's because of LGBT issues, the fact that we're becoming more and more, well, no, the people are, but the government certainly is, the current regime is much more homophobic and transphobic, which will, lend credence to parents who are complete assholes, and also result in the stripping of grants, charitable donations, partnerships with youth homeless shelters who focus on trying to find homes for the LGBT kids, or at least putting a roof over their head, getting them fed. They're going to be seen as some sort of like deviant groomers for finding homes for these kids. And then, being on the street is a trauma in itself. So all of a sudden, you have someone who is perhaps a normal kid, just happen to be gay or trans or whatever. They get kicked out of the house for coming out to their parents. The parents suspect them of it. They're like, go on the street, you little shit. And they go out there, and all of a sudden now they got to, like, do what it takes to survive. And any of you can probably imagine, if you're a child on the streets, what a lot of folks will pay for from kids like that. So essentially, our homophobia and transphobia in this country is leading to the sexual trafficking of literal children, so that they are forced into all sorts of situations just to get food or a bed or anything else. They are 100% exploitable because they're minors. They have no home, no adults looking out for them, and there we are. Expensive homes, like that. There are working poor who like live in their cars, live in an RV, live in a van, live in a tent, and they are homeless. But I don't think that is where the bulk of homelessness comes from. I think that is a symptom of our really shitty housing laws in this country, and allowing these private investment funds to basically buy up homes, collude together, jack up rents, cause home prices go through the roof. If we had laws against that, boom, that problem's solved. But I think the biggest portion of it is mental health and drug abuse and, kids with hateful parents. And we're not doing any services here. We're cut Medicaid. Good, done. We cut grants to all these advocates for youth homelessness. That's okay. That's done. And we just vaporized the VA. So something like 1 in 4 adult homeless are veterans. 1 in 4. 25% of our homeless population are veterans. And what do they suffer from? Trauma, right? And if you are a particular type of vet, you may have gone into the military because you had no other options, right? You're like, well, my parents could kick me out of the house. I'm not getting accepted to school. I'm not a student. I guess I'll join the army. And I'll have options. You go join the army or you join the Marines or whatever, and whatever you are taught to do may not be translatable to real life. I swept a runway for 4 years, or I learned how to stab people with a bayonet, or whatever. Like, that didn't translate to, becoming a local business leader, etc. You still didn't have a formal education. You still don't know how to do math. You still don't have a lot of skills that you need to function at a everyday job. And then you get sent off to war multiple times, in Iraq and Afghanistan and elsewhere. You lose friends, you lose limbs, you face all sorts of other hardships. And when you get back, they're like, yeah, you're done. Fuck you. Go do whatever it is you do. And you got no one to come home to. You spent your time in the military. Your family was going to kick you out at 18 anyway, so not like you can go back home and be like, hey, mom and dad, can I hang out here for a little bit while I figure out what I'm going to do in my life? They're like, get out of here. You're old enough. So we have a whole bunch of folks that are just basically abandoned by our society, who we asked a lot of and did not give back in return what we needed. Not everybody is built to go to college. So the GI Bill, they might not even qualify to get into a college. So the GI Bill isn't doing me good. So yeah, it's a giant mess, and we're not actually addressing any of it. Gavin Newsom, he's a complete psychopath in California. He's basically pressuring the entire state and all the municipalities to declare being homeless illegal. Cool. Where are these people supposed to go? They don't have money. That's why they're homeless, right? They've got mental health issues. They've got trauma issues. They've got drug and alcohol issues. No money's there to treat them. No systems there to treat them, right? So now what? Hey kid, you might be 14 years old and kicked out of your house because you're a little queer, but it's against the law for you to be outside now. You're going to jail. Cool. Now we just ingrain that kid into a system of recidivism, where they're going to be spending time with hardened criminals, learning the tricks of the trade, and that's where we are. It's So I think number one, we just focus on healthcare, getting everybody healthcare and getting treatment, and eliminating stupid private insurance companies and hospitals, and that solves probably 70% of our issues with homelessness. And after that, we can start focusing on housing, on youth homelessness, on our veterans. But until then, we're just gonna have all the crazy people on the street and all the damaged people on the street, and because they, damaged people don't pay rent. So. Dan B, happy birthday, Susan. Either I'm late, early, on time. Have a great week, everyone. One of the three, aren't you? It could be really early, it could be really late, it could be a little bit late, or really, really early. Our minutes in E-Trade is in someone's pocket. My 2023 BBY bonds are at $7.90 per, and the same bonds in my BBKR account are $64.50. So E-Trade has some sketchy shit going on. Huh. I'd take screenshots and send that and ask to talk to their compliance officer and see how they're reporting. That's interesting. That's very interesting. And vice versa with IBKR. So, Sometimes sommelier could no labs buy their way out of Lynn Partners' death spiral note the way Finger did. Could you explain that process, please? Thank you. Yeah, you can do it a couple of ways. You can raise capital. You can do some sort of share offering. You could bring in an outside investor to drop $12 million on you. You can have insiders pool the money together, buy a larger portion of the company that way, pay it off. You can find someone else to lend to you. You can take out a different kind of loan. You could do some sort of bond that is not a collateralized bond, and then just take that money and pay it off. There's ways to do it. I think they should. Getting Lind out of there is probably the best thing they can do for themselves, because Lind shorts and uses their collateralized bond, I believe, as locates for their shorts, and they just keep using them as locates over and over and short the company into nothingness. And then if they get paid, cool. If they don't get paid, they just take their shares, short some more, and or take the company. When's Eamon? I kind of quit following. Is BBY dead, or is there still hope? I think BBY still has tons of hope. It's readily apparent that there's more money in the estate than there is what's currently owed to creditors. So that means there's at least a cash windfall coming for Class 9, which is us, the shareholders. Some payments to unsecured bondholders are starting to go out. I don't think these are the publicly traded bonds. I think these are other lending options that Bed Bath did back in the day. But if that's the case, then at least we'll get a cash payout of some kind. And as long as it's more than 20 cents a share, I make a profit. I'd rather be much higher than that, and I think mathematically it will be dollars at least a share. We still don't know how much money is coming from these settlements with the lawsuit against the board, against various shipping companies. We can see clawbacks. Millions come in from clawbacks from, overpayments, stuff like that coming through. But the settlements on these lawsuits, excuse me, they are under lock and key until the last one is settled, and then we see the lump sum of how much money there's there. And my hope is that it's in the billions. The lawsuit against the board and showing that JP Morgan was influencing the board against the shareholders, against the fiduciary duty that the board had for the shareholders, is enough, I think, for RICO. And RICO allows for 3 times the compensation for the damage done. If the damage done was $11.8 billion in ill-advised stock buybacks facilitated by JP Morgan, right? Then that means you're looking at $34 billion of potential recovery. So it's very, very behoove of them to avoid a trial and possible RICO suit and go for a deal and get this thing over with quick under seal. So it might be, it could be as high as $10 billion or something. And if that's the case, depending on the share count, that could be as much as, $70 to $100 a share per shareholder. That's walking around money with that. I mean, I got 15,000 shares. I could do with $1.5 million cash. That'd be great. I would love that. I would not be opposed to receiving $1.5 million cash as some sort of waterfall. If it's $1 a share, okay, then I get, what, 15 grand? All right, it's better than nothing. It's a long time to wait to get that 5x return on my investment, but, better than nothing. I would prefer cash payout, plus equity in a new venture for whoever absorbs the company for the nulls. That then makes the shares very in demand and possibly forces a short squeeze. So if we get $100 a share plus equity in a new company that's going to force a short squeeze for how much these shares are shorted, that would be the best. The best of both worlds blended together in a happy little perfect storm. That's what we're waiting on. Robert Manson. I wouldn't be surprised if they found a loophole, maybe trucking them from Canada to US, and maybe they get Canada's tariff rate way less than China. I have little doubt that there is black market smuggling going on for goods, changing the origin of manufactured goods, ripping out tags, putting in tags that say made in Bangladesh or made in Canada or whatever into them. Things like that happen. I haven't think that happened with, even without tariffs. There was, what was the company? There was some right-wing, we like our guns clothing brand. And they talked about how everything was made in America. Like, it's all made in America, brother. And it turns out they were ripping the tags out and sewing new tags in that say made in America, but everything was made in Vietnam and China. And they got huge, hundreds of thousands of dollars in fines and basically went bankrupt as a result of being found out that they were bullshitting everyone on this. So we'll see that. We'll see things happen where, if let's say you want a new iPhone, right? With the tariffs the way they were as of yesterday, your iPhone's going to cost you $2,500, or you go to Canada and pay $1,100, right? So why not go to Canada, buy the new iPhone, put your SIM card in it, use it. It's now a used device, right? It's not new. It's not in the package. And then you just come right back across the border with it. You just avoided the tariffs, right? So now it's like going to Canada to get your prescription drugs. It's a way of sort of avoiding that. Delta has new Airbus jets. And if the first flight from the Airbus jet is from France to the US, they have to pay a huge tariff on it. But if their first flight is from Paris to Tokyo, they don't have to pay a tariff on it, because when it comes to do a flight in the US, it is now a used item and no longer subject to tariffs. So there's going to be ways of getting around this stuff. Like Temu, stuff that Temu can do is they can open up a wholly owned subsidiary, buy all the goods from themselves. So subsidiaries can do that. So let's say, you have a Temu warehouse somewhere in Nevada, and they buy all the Temu, good example. Bedside tables, right? They normally cost $90 or something on Temu. They buy them all from themselves for $1. So they put them on a ship, comes in, it shows the purchase orders for $1 for each one of these units. They pay $1.45 in tariffs. And then now the table, rather than being wholesale at $90, is now wholesale at $91.45. Done. then it is no longer an object they already paid the tariff on it, so now they're just selling it as a good from retailer to customer. So there are ways to get around it. There's also, you can just bribe customs officials and be like, here's $100, look the other way, and they're like, okay, and then ship stuff comes off and ships. You're basically creating a very creative system to get around these things, a la the Soviet Union. I mean, Trump came out today, and he had this long-ass Truth Social post about, for too long, drug prices have been too high, and, I don't understand why we can't get these drug prices down, and so Thursday I'm going to sign a law reducing drug prices 30 to 80%, and we'll solve the problem. The problem is a couple of reasons, couple of reasons behind it. One is Trump tore up the prescription drug price plan that Biden passed, that executive order. He said, I wrote an executive order saying no to this, and drug prices went up. And now he's going to basically take the exact same executive order and just put his name at the bottom of it and pass it again. Another problem is why drug prices are so high in America is not because these drug companies are raking you over the coals. It's because we have, again, a private, for-profit healthcare industry. Hospitals have to overcharge insurance because insurance will naturally renegotiate a different price. So if the hospital charges what it actually costs, right, then the insurance will be like, that's too much, and they'll renegotiate to below what it actually costs. So the hospital is going to charge something absolutely exorbitant. If it's a procedure that actually costs everybody $100, they're going to charge $10,000. That way, when the insurance negotiates down to $5,000, everybody still is happy. And that's a huge reason why things cost so much in this country. I was reading, Iggy sent me an article today about a cancer drug that helps keep cancer patients in remission, and it costs $1,000 a dose per day for this drug. It costs a drug company 25 cents to make the drug. Why isn't the drug company charged 25 cents for each one of these doses? Because they charge $1,000, the drug companies, the insurance companies will pay the $1,000. It's that simple. Like, if you have a centralized universal healthcare system where the purchasing power of the entire federal government goes into negotiating the price of these things, you can negotiate where the hell you want because they're the only customer, right? So if the U.S. government's like, we will buy 100 million units of this cancer drug, and we're going to pay you 40 cents a dose. The drug company can't be like, that's not going to happen, because if they don't say yes, they don't move any product, right? That's how it works in Europe. That's how it works in Canada. That's how it works in Mexico, is you have a centralized negotiator for the nonprofit healthcare system, and they just negotiate the price. It's pretty simple. Where am I? Okay. Aaron Salentine, Finger News, Ham says there's a rumor that JP Morgan Bank is loading up $30 million worth of shares into Finger. That is the rumor on Wall Street, and other hedge funds are buying in. It's rumors a rumor. Buy on rumors, sell on news. He said the space called today. Julius Miami, AMC will slash movie ticket prices by 50% on Wednesdays, says Bloomberg. Okay. Aaron Salentine, Houston. Look up ticker symbol RGC. It's at $500 a share, and a few days ago it was at $3. Ham saying the same thing is going to happen to Finger. So load up. Okay. So RGC share price. 470. Let's take a look at this guy. Regenicell Bioscience Holdings. So it was at $100 last week. It was at $27 back in April. It was at $6 in November. It was at $5 in May of last year. And so it looks like the low point was June of this last year, about $3. And now it's at $470. Did they have an announcement? Must have had some sort of announcement to make that happen, right? I don't see news. Anything in the news? Why? It soared last week. Okay, here we go. All right, we recently published these 10 stocks posted double, triple digit gains. Micro, mid cap, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Regencell spiked up by 207% week on week to close at $12.62 on Friday following share buyback from another shareholder. So they did a big share buyback. And then they climbed more Thursday. The CEO personally financed the share buyback of 6,000 shares. Company snapped up more 6.2 million shares at an average price of 9.5 each. A little over a million shares representing 86% of the company. Okay, so they bought up 86% of the shares, and that's why they had such a huge spike. So share buyback. They basically reduced the entire supply by a lot. So I guess maybe, I don't know, maybe Finger needs to do a share buyback. I don't know if they got the cash on hand to do something like that, but perhaps, maybe, perhaps, perchance. Mike Cease, the Trump negotiated reaching a deal to solve a problem he created. What's the point of all this? Yeah, it's like starting a house fire and then showing up with a fire truck, putting it out, and the house is 90% destroyed, and be like, "You're welcome." That's basically what he started a house fire. He then put out the fire. The house is still destroyed, and he wants a good old pat in the back for a job well done. Accolades, people, lots of them. That's kind of what he did. We had no issue. He created an issue. He still doesn't totally solve the issue. Like, tariffs were here. He pushed them to here, and now tariffs are here. We still have an issue. And something fell against that wall. And nothing's really been solved yet. Larry Dubs, Houston, is Aberdeen, Washington a good place to buy a small plot, 0.07 acres of land? If you like rain, like lots and lots and lots and lots of rain. I'm talking like biblical amounts of rain every day for your entire life. That's Aberdeen. Not much in the way of industry. It was basically a logging town. Ain't any more logging going on. A lot of meth and opiates. Yeah, not Aberdeen. The times I've gone to Aberdeen, I've mostly had an okay time. Basically going through. In high school, a friend had a punk rock show, and he's like, "Hey guys, you want to come to a show?" So we went down there, and they did the punk rock show, and I don't know how we got allowed into the bar because it was obviously a bar, but there's a bunch of us teenagers there. But then a bunch of skinheads showed up, and it becoming a giant brawl, and like kicking the teeth in on skinheads, and yeah, there's a lot of that out there too. So, if you're gonna buy land in Grays Harbor County, I would go for Westport or Ocean Shores. Because at least you got the beach. Hoquiam and Aberdeen, not the best. That's what I say. Okay, well, I gotta get heading out. You folks have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow for a show. And talk to you more then. Maybe I'll have a better night's sleep and I'll do a better job reading my questions. Okay, anyway, you folks have a good one. I will catch you on the flip side. Shaboom. Oh, it didn't happen. End. Why didn't you end? I hit the button.